Hey, what's going on, everyone? Nathan here. So since I recently got back to college and starting my graduate program, I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of run through my undergraduate and the classes that I took with that. So here with me is my best friend at school, Brandon. He was an aerospace engineer, just graduated last year with me. And so with this, we're going to come together right now and we're going to go through all of the classes that we both took throughout our undergrad for aerospace and mechanical. These two majors are very similar together and they split up later on, like your second semester junior year into your senior year. So I thought it'd be a good idea, since they're so similar, to kind of combine them together. So he'll take the aerospace classes, I'll take the mechanical, and then everything that we took together we'll kind of rate on the same scale. So if you look here at this tier list that I made, we're gonna rate this from easiest to hardest. So the F tier will be the easiest classes, S will be the hardest classes. And we're gonna try to encompass everything about the class, from the content itself to the actual like time spent into it to do well on the class. We're gonna try our best to kind of push off like specific professors. I know that different professors can make classes easier or harder depending on who you get. So just kind of pushing that to the side, we're gonna try our best to do this based off of content alone. And further with that, these are all the classes that we both took engineering wise. And so the blue classes are the ones that we took our freshman year, the orange classes are for sophomore year, green are for junior, and then the red are for senior year. With that being said, let's get into the first class here, which is Chem 106, which is also known as Chemistry 1. How do you feel about Chemistry 1?
It's a long time ago, man.
It was a long time
over
ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
I remember it being a lot of memorizing.
Yep. A lot of memorizing.
Chemistry itself, though, I think chemistry is a difficult concept to pick up, though.
It is.
It's very minute, and like there's a lot of specifics into chemistry.
I think it's just so different too from everything else too. You know, it's different from, English. It's different from math. It's kind of almost like a combination of both thrown into it, and especially if you're taking it the first semester too, it's kind of a lot. A lot of memorization. You got to know all these different like molecular numbers and all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely tough.
Yeah. We'll give ourselves some grace here. We can change stuff later on as we get further down the list, but you go with putting this middle of the road.
100%. Yep.
Because it is an intro freshman level class. You got to keep that in mind, but it's also like it wasn't the easiest class I've taken in my life.
Yep, for sure.
Right?
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
So now moving on to Chem 107. This is the lab that goes along with your chemistry class. I'm putting this separate because the labs are like their own animal itself. Some labs were easier than others, but in general, like you got to like consider labs. They take up a lot of time usually, and so this Chemistry 107, I think this was one of the toughest labs that I took up until junior year.
No, it was definitely tough.
I
agree.
It's very time consuming.
Yep. It's a lot of time, and also, you got to do a couple things beforehand in order to get ready for it. You had those like pre-lab assignments you had to do, and then also like the post-lab stuff you had to do afterwards. Yep. So I would definitely, for now, put it above.
I would too.
We might be shifting this down a little bit as we kind of get deeper into this.
You feeling B?
But for now, I put it in B.
I'm feeling B. And also with that, it's like the cleanup. These labs, like they're usually set for like a 3-hour period. The chem labs would almost go the 3 hours every time. Like it was kind of ridiculous.
Yep, all the time.
It's like you finish your lab, like not only like could like you have gone wrong with like mixing different chemicals and stuff like that in the process, like you got to clean up after too. And they're very strict with you leaving before the cleanup. So Chem lab was a good introduction to college. It was
a lot of time. It was more time spent than Chem 106. Even with the memorizing in Chem 106, it's the 107 that you're spending 3 hours a week in a lab.
All right, so next on the list is Math 295, which is Calc 1. So personally, because I took Calc in high school, it was kind of like a refresher. Like we kind of both had to retake it here. I don't know, we just did really bad on the placement exams or whatever. I don't know what's going on with that. But I think in general, because it's also Calc 1, it's the very basics of derivatives and integrals. Like I would say this is a relatively like easy class, especially just content-wise.
Yep.
Right?
I think I would put it the level below Chem 106. I think it was below Chem 1 for sure. Just in terms of chemistry being different from everything else that I had ever done. That was definitely easier for me than Chem 106 was. So,
I agree with that. Yeah. Here's the thing though, would you say this is one of the easier classes you've taken in your college career?
Relative, I would say yeah. Honestly,
Okay.
so we might slide it down.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm putting it
I
at the
agree.
bottom. You know, I know some people might find calc difficult, but if you're going to engineering, like you use calculus in almost every class.
There's
like,
two other ones after, you know?
there is two
Yeah.
other ones after, so you got to start somewhere with calc 1. So, okay. Moving on from there, we have calc 2, which was also taken in your freshman year. We take it second semester. Calc 2, I did really well in Calc 2.
Me too.
If you understand Calc 1, this is just another dimension you go in. So Calc 1's all one-dimensional. Calc 2 is two-dimensional.
Yep.
You know, I don't think Calc 2 is impossible. It's a lot of just understanding how to use equations. I would put it similar to chemistry.
I agree.
You agree with that?
Yep, 100%.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the next class we took is ECS 104, and so this is Engineering Computational Tools, which essentially was just MATLAB. I'm sure many other colleges use MATLAB. It's a very heavily like math-based engineering coding language, and this is where like you learn like the fundamentals of coding in MATLAB. I thought this class was relatively easy.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
Super straightforward. They have to teach you the basics of something in order to, you know, for you to grow in it. In
Yeah.
which we, you know, we'll go through this, and we do use MATLAB in a lot of the classes later on. I honestly would probably put it the F tier. I really would.
I agree with that too. You know, it's very simple coding, like if, for statements, while loops, like just different things like that. So you don't make these crazy like coding programs yet. So I think that is a fair assessment for that class.
Yep.
So next is Physics 211, and this is Physics 1. I didn't take physics in high school, but I thought this was pretty straightforward.
Yep, I did take physics in high school, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It was pretty straightforward.
Kinematics.
I did know a lot of people that did struggle with it, you know, because, you know, I feel like there are other programs that also had to take Physics 1 as part of their curriculum. And so,
Yep.
you know, I might have been around, you know, especially freshman year, didn't really know a whole lot of people. So, you know, I might have been surrounded by people that didn't really know what they were doing. So they, you know,
Yeah,
it was,
that's fair.
You know, as you go up, it gets better. But at least in the beginning, when you got more of a gen ed course, it's kind of, you get kind of a lot of people in it. But for me, I would say it was a little easier coming from the aerospace mechanical perspective.
So I would be okay with putting this in C tier,
I agree.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
for
okay,
sure.
cool. So next is Physics 221, and this is the Physics 1 lab that was attached with Physics 1. I thought this lab was a breeze.
Yep. Agreed. 100%.
Like nothing like the chem lab. Like this lab is super quick. We went in there maybe an hour 20 minutes, and we were out of there.
If
There's
that,
no
if that.
cleanup.
No cleanup.
No cleanup. Like
It was even late at night too, so I remember
Yeah.
that we got to go home a little bit early.
it's hard to mess up these labs. It's very straightforward. Like what you have to do. Like remember like the cart on that little thing. You like push it or whatever, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because it's all kinematics. It's all like motion in a direction. Versus the chem lab, like you could mess it up and then your data would be all skewed. So I think this is an F. This is
Agree.
easy.
I agree.
All right, so the next class on this list is ECS 101. And so this is like the intro to engineering class that all engineers have to take. And so we both had two different classes, completely different professors. He had the aerospace intro one and I had the mechanical one. And it really covers like just a broad basis of engineering itself. And then there's specific projects to which like concentration that you're in. So how do you feel about ECS 101?
It was daunting at first because that was the first aerospace class that I had. Everything
Yeah.
else was, you know, building off of stuff whether I had done in high school or just honestly everything that I had done before that was stuff I had already done. It was pretty difficult, and you know, we had a big project at the end of the year too. Which was really difficult.
I know a lot of the arrows were stressed towards the end, like last minute.
Pulling all-nighters the
Yeah.
past couple days before it was due, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
I think it's a very good, like, actual, like, introduction to, like, what you can expect engineering or the degree itself to be like, you know? It's stressful, like, it's a decent amount of work, but it also, like, it kind of gets you. It's like, I always call it, like, the get you class because, like, for me as a mechanical, like we made like 3D printed cars and we did like rubber band powered cars. And then after that class, I didn't touch anything engineering, I feel like, until junior year.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you go about 3 semesters of just math.
The other
It
thing,
seems like just that.
I agree, and the other thing too is that my freshman year, after we had done this big semester-long project, you know, the professor had taken pictures of all of us. He was kind of the head of the air department at the time. And then senior year, we go into our senior design projects, you know, looking later down on the road, and we got to review those pictures, and you know, we kind of be like, oh, what happened to this person? What happened to that person? Like all these people dropped, you know, whatever. And you know, it honestly probably attest to that. You know, I got introduced to Aero, and then they were like, "This isn't for me." You know, so it's kind of a.
Was there a lot of people that dropped like that you noticed?
Yep. Both my teammates from that project that we had freshman year dropped.
Wow.
Yep. Both.
Wow, that's crazy. Yep. I do know a lot of mechanicals dropped like over the years, but I didn't have like a physical picture to see exactly how many.
It was crazy too.
Okay.
It was so different. Oh my god.
Oh, me too. So okay, would you say B or C? What are you thinking? I'm thinking B, especially because you got to think about like where you are in life.
I put a lot.
You're a freshman.
I put a lot of time into that class. I would say B.
It was by far my hardest class I took freshman year.
Yep.
Okay, we're going with B with that one. Cool. Okay, and so next we got Astronomy 104, and I'll let Brandon talk about this one because this is a aerospace class specifically, so I didn't have to take it as a mechanical.
We had one class, unfortunately for me, it was at 8 in the morning, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that was kind of unfortunate, especially my freshman year. Had to make that long walk in these cold winters, which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's tough.
But, you know, honestly, aside from that, it was pretty interesting. I learned a lot about the galaxy and the universe. I really did. A lot of stuff that I didn't know, and that was kind of what I was into at first, you know, getting into space and then engineering and kind of combining that. That's kind of why I chose aerospace in the first place.
Yeah.
So it was cool to take a class that kind of really focused on the space side of things, which was nice. In terms of overall difficulty, there was a lot of people that were not engineering at all, and so, you know, I feel like it was kind of a pretty easy class from my perspective. Correct.
Towards more of everyone.
Yep. I really did not spend a whole lot of time with it. Exams were relatively easy. Honestly, I would throw it down in the F tier.
Okay.
Relative to what we're doing right now.
Cool.
I would put it F. So.
Side note: do you believe in life form out there?
Aliens? Oh, for sure. 100%.
Like whether it's advanced civilizations or not?
Yeah.
You think
anything.
Oh, me too. 100%.
Something's out there. 100%.
There's no way.
100%. Yeah.
It's
mathematically speaking, the odds.
It's infinite.
Yeah, for sure. It's literally there's something out there.
Okay, I'm glad.
Whether they're on our level or not, or I mean, there's
beyond,
potential for beyond our level.
All right, so now we're getting on to sophomore year classes, and this is where you get very math intensive and really like I wouldn't say any engineering at all. You know, you're covering the basics of all different kinds of aspects of what engineers like encompass. And so let's get right into this. So the first one is ECS 221, and this is statics. I would say this was our first. Besides ECS 101, this is our first like mathematically engineering class.
Yep.
Right?
Incorporating the math into the engineering. That's definitely what it was.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like the first time you have to like rewire your brain and think about math in a new way. Like you're given all the equations and it's a matter of like thinking about how to use them and how to find other things to be able to use these equations. Yep. I thought this was pretty difficult.
It was. I mean, you're applying what you have already known and the math techniques that you know, through the algebra and through the calculus, and you're applying all those into real life engineering problems like that. I remember the final, and it was, you got to figure out the forces on a shelf or like stuff like that where it's hanging up. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember that.
It was tough, but when you break it down, it's stuff that you should already know, but you're trying to apply that in a new way that you haven't done
before. It's the first time you're doing it.
Never.
Yeah.
So.
And I think I want to kind of just give a general basis of what statics is. It's like forces on objects that don't move. So honestly, I can't put this in A. I don't know.
I think we have to slide down, dude. I think we have to slide down.
We're going to slide everything down?
I think we slide everything what we have down, and then we'll put ECS and B.
Okay.
We look at how...
Yeah. We probably jumped the gun. Yeah, all right, we're gonna move everything down a little bit here. Everyone's coming down one because now...
I knew it was gonna happen. It was all relative.
Yeah. We should have started with Chem and C, like what I originally said. So now next is ECS 326. So ECS 326 is materials. I didn't take the specific aeromechanical materials. I took the civil. Not to bash civil or anything, but it was a breeze. I was in the civil materials, and everyone else was in the mechanical aero, and they were stressing about this class, and I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So for accuracy's sake, I'm gonna let him talk about this materials class.
It was tough. It was real tough. My personal situation, I was doing other things besides that, so it was a little tougher. But thinking about it from a general perspective, you're again kind of similar to statics. You're applying things from chemistry, the calculus classes that you're kind of throwing into all these new concepts, and I mean you're literally learning about this.
Sorry, we got a big thunderstorm going outside.
You're learning about, the structure of materials. Like it's tough, the breakdown of material, which is it's kind of crazy to think about, when you get down to it.
Yeah. Also, being an outsider, again, there was a lot of people in the same boat as you. I feel like a lot of our friends were complaining about this class specifically. You rate it. You're the one in it.
I don't know if I want to do this yet, but for now, I'm gonna put it above statics. For me,
you almost failed.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's fair.
For real. I put for the final. I spent the whole entire week and a half before nonstop. I go to class. Oh, I'm not in class. Study for materials. That's what I was in at that time. So for now, I'll leave it above statics.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair to me. All right. So the next class is MAT 397, and this is Calc 3. So now this is adding a third dimension to calculus. Me personally, I thought this was probably around the same level of difficulty as Calc 2. Definitely a level above Calc 1, but
they were relatively the same difficulty and time spent in what you were doing.
I would also say that, the time spent on both of them, I would also say is pretty even, especially to do well in both classes, like the study time put in. You really think D? You think it was the same?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna have to give on one here. Okay, so the next is Physics 2. This class I thought was difficult.
Yep.
The concept of it. Physics 2 is like magnetism and how magnetism works. I thought this class was difficult.
It was tough. And I mean, you're building on another level of what Physics 1 was, which was applying those concepts you learned in other classes in real world scenarios, and now the jump between Physics 1 and Physics 2 is
and I remember
monumental.
I remember Physics 2 class-wise was a lot of time. There was 3 different lectures, a recitation, and a lab. I had Physics 2 every day of the week.
That's right.
I had Physics 2 every day. That. It's very time-consuming.
Super time-consuming.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, I'm thinking back to sophomore year now. I think this is like B.
Yep.
I remember the content being difficult.
I would put it on the same level. Yep.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, cool. All right, so next is Physics 222, and this is the Physics 2 lab. This is easy. I think this was easy. I think it was just like Physics 1.
Exactly.
Very, you go in and the TAs already had everything set up for you. You just follow a couple instructions, take down a couple things.
Throw that on the bottom. Physics 222, bottom. Yep.
Literally the exact same as Physics 1 lab. Is just with different, contraptions that you do it with. Very easy, no cleanup, breeze, in and out. No pish posh. All right, next is ECS 222, and this is dynamics. I'm so sorry for anyone who is going to be taking this class. This is a very difficult class, and again, I know we're trying to push professors out of the way. We both had a brand new professor, new to Syracuse at least. I don't know if he was new to teaching. He seemed new to teaching. But the content in general is very difficult. Forces on moving objects and relative motion.
It's both of them.
Yeah, you say both.
It's, oh my goodness.
It is, even saying those words.
I'm getting triggered back, man. This is tough. It was a really, really tough class. It was unlike anything that we had ever done. It genuinely was. It was very different. It was tough, just the concepts themselves. But also, I do know that, the teacher that we had, the teacher before that who also taught dynamics, also didn't teach them. So it was a recurring problem. And so, whether or not it was a teacher or not, but even if you were properly taught, it's still tough. It's very really tough.
Difficult, just understanding the problems that you're about to do. And then using these equations for them. It's all about setting up the equations and knowing, what works with what. This might be... I don't think this is out there. This is going up in S tier. Hear me out.
Yep.
Our class averages with a crazy curve. We had he did everything.
Just talk about the raw score. We're talking 30.
It was 30s and 40s.
Yeah. And that's if you were
class averages.
We're talking. You're getting, if you were top of the class, you're getting 70.
Yeah.
If you were
if you're the kid who gets A's straight across, hundreds and everything.
A pluses.
Bro. You were getting 70s max in these exams. The general, we're all smart kids.
Even then, I know people who they got the A, and then the next test they get a 47. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, and there was these crazy curves, and like it didn't help many people in general. No, he did whatever it was, square rooted it, and multiplied by 10.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then he added something at the end too.
And then he added something because we still couldn't pass, all of us. Like, it was brutal. So dynamics is
For
S
sure.
tier.
That is-
Dynamics, stay well aware of when you're going into it. Okay, so next is ECS 325, and this is mechanics of solids.
Shear stress, you know, the forces on the objects themselves.
Weakest
On
points.
like a smaller scale, you're kind of applying some of those things you learned in materials in that, but then you're also incorporating some stuff you learned in statics. So it's kind of a combination of statics and materials.
You know, I'm having trouble fully remembering what this one was, and I feel like it wasn't that easy.
It was not, but I already know that the other class that's super similar to this was harder.
Way harder.
So for now, let's throw it on B. Let's throw it on B up on the physics level, and we'll probably end up throwing the similar one on A.
Yeah, I remember it being at least somewhat pretty difficult.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. So next is MAE 251, and this is thermodynamics. This class is also very difficult. Funny story, we walk in, right? First day, our professor like sits down, like classic like engineering professor, like doesn't say good morning. Nothing, right? Like we're just numbers to them, right? He was like, this is the class where half of you like drop out and don't become engineers. And you're already like 4 semesters deep now into your like college career.
Yep.
And then
it weeds people out. That's what he said.
yeah, it weeds people out. So thermodynamics is definitely difficult.
You're going over heat transfer stuff. You're
Yeah.
going over, thermo. Thermo, just throw that into any math, and it's just gonna cause some problems.
It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's a whole nother
Ready?
beast.
Ready? One thing else to add that I don't know if you completely forgot about. Every exam we had a book. We brought our textbook because there's tables and tables and tables of numbers
The whole appendix you need
for everything.
for all these. Yeah,
all
because
your homeworks, everything. You had to carry this textbook with you.
in order to solve a problem, you needed values. In order
Yeah.
to get those values, you had to use this book. So literally would bring in a textbook.
Yeah.
Every exam, every
Yeah.
homework, every anything, you needed that textbook.
That's
Oh
the
my goodness.
thing, and like you have to know like where you're
Where to
going. Like, you
look.
had to memorize the appendix. So
Yeah.
on an exam, you have so much time. Like they time these very well. You have to know where you're going in this appendix.
You can't be like, oh, is this appendix A? Oh,
Yeah,
appendix B?
right?
Like, no, you gotta
gotta know.
appendix B. You
Yeah.
gotta know.
Okay, I
For
think
sure.
this is going up there. I'm thinking B.
Yep.
I would say it was.
I was thinking between A and S. I would put it above.
You'd put it at
physics,
A?
dude. I would put it at A. Yeah, man. I
Okay,
definitely
that's
would.
fair. Okay, so next is MAE 284, and this is Intro to CAD. I actually had a good time with this class.
I really did too.
I enjoy CAD.
Yep.
It's fun. It was a decent amount of work because like you're learning, like SolidWorks, AutoCAD, like you're learning how to use the programs. But there's like very like clear-cut tutorials to do.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the project at the end, like making the air engine.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I would say like the toughest part is like the tolerances, GD and T. I think
Yeah,
that's
when
what
you
it's
get
called
the specifics
specifically.
of it. Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think tolerances are a little difficult, like memorizing everything. But I'm sure like if you were to work in like CAD design and just like manufacturing in general, like you kind of catch on to it pretty quick.
Yep.
I think it was a fair class in general, though.
Yep.
I would say C.
Yep, I agree.
Personally.
I mean, again, too, it's something that you've never done before. Up until that point, we had never done any physical 3D modeling.
Yeah.
Well, at least, I had some experience on a different program in high school. But again, when you get into a whole new tool,
Yeah.
a whole new program, there's a lot of things where you're looking at the toolbar and there's like 9 million things you got to click, and you're like, oh, which one do I click? And then it's a lot to learn at first.
Yeah.
So I agree. It was a fair class.
And so the last class is MAT 485, and this is differential equations and linear algebra together. Syracuse puts them together, so we're gonna combine it because we don't know anything else. This class is difficult. I would say the content in this class is difficult.
If you had a good grasp on Calc 1 through 3, especially more so Calc 3, it wasn't, I don't know if it was necessarily tougher than Calc 3.
I remember some of the problems.
It was pretty
long.
time consuming.
It was
relatively time consuming. I would say it's more time consuming than Calc 3. Definitely the time is more than the other 3.
Yeah,
So.
I remember like some of the problems like for the exams, like it would take whole pages.
Yeah.
It would take whole pages.
I remember
It's a lot of writing, like
I forgot about
like,
that until you said that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like me, you, Jared, Romeo, like studying in Bird Library on the whiteboards, and we
right.
were going like
Whole whiteboard.
it's whole whiteboards. Like once when you understand the process, it's pretty like cookie cutter there. but it's long, and there's a lot of room to make little errors, I think. Yep. I think this is a step above Calc 3.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, touching on that, if you make one little error, if right in the beginning
it carries through.
You put a X instead of a Y, you know, like 45 lines down the problem, you're like, why is this not working? And you're like, oh, it's because you got to go back. And then, I have to resolve the whole problem. Like, it was
and like, you just said that putting X instead of a Y, like, this is the first, like, differential equations, like, carries through engineering from here on out. Like you start coming across, like, differential equations, like, everywhere in engineering, like, when you start adding in different variables. This is the first time you have to learn how to work with these types of equations, actually. I think that's a very fair assessment than where we put it.
I agree.
All right, so now moving on to junior year, which will be the green tiles here. So the first class is ELE 231, and this is the intro to the electrical engineering class. I actually thought this class was difficult.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because we don't have the electrical engineering brain for circuits. It's definitely doable, but I thought it was like difficult concepts.
Yep, I agree. New concepts you've never seen before.
Especially as like the circuits got more and more complex. Remember that? And like the nodal analysis.
Just more concepts that, again, you're not familiar with. The math breaks down the same way, but the concepts are something that I had never seen before in college or in high school. So
yeah, and I think this is less like physical and understanding physics as it is more so just understanding how like circuits work. And so as mechanical aerospace is like, we're like a little bit out of our element here. Yep. I would say this is definitely more on the difficult side. I would say relative to DiffyQ.
Yep, I agree. Right? I would put suits for sure.
Okay, cool. And so now moving on to the ELE 291, which is the electrical engineering lab for this class. I didn't think this was the hardest lab in the world, but we did have like they're not called bread baskets. What are they called?
Circuit boards? Breadboards?
Breadboards, yeah. We did have the breadboards. And I mean, some of those got pretty complex.
Yeah, the further you got, kind of making the relation between what you're doing in the lab and what you're learning in class is kind of tough. Pretty time consuming too, because the lab was kind of long. You kind of had to wait until you finished, so kind of buried.
And I mean, it's just like, it's visualizing, because like the circuits are always like almost like a circle in a way. And it's so different how it's actually set up on like the breadboard itself.
If you have one little thing off, it'll mess up your whole data. So.
I thought this was like a mixed lab. Like,
dude, I might just put it the same as 231.
Yeah, honestly. You think so? In the middle of the road?
Yep.
Okay. For sure. I would agree with that. So the next class is MAE 312, and this is the engineering analysis class. This class is very difficult. This is like, I would say, some of the highest level math that we do.
Yep. Super in depth, really long. We're talking one problem is
hours.
At least 2 pages of full writing.
I wouldn't even say more than that sometimes.
You're doing triple integrals multiple times on different problems. It's just a lot of work, and in addition to that, you got the Maple program that you're introduced to. That
I don't know if other schools
have seen, sure, but it's something that was thrown at us that made that course.
It did make it more difficult. This is definitely a very difficult class. Like, I would put this is the only C I've ever gotten in both high school and college. Like, I'm putting this up in A tier, I think.
Yeah, I'm debating even S tier at this point.
I think an S tier as well.
Honest with you,
this is my only ever C. Like, I think this is a difficult class. Like, I would
put S tier. Honestly.
Okay, yeah. It's long. The time you put into it's long. So here's the big boy MAE 315 lab.
S tier right now.
This is going right to the S tier. Yeah. I've talked with, actually, like, back at home, I have a friend. He goes to UNH, also an A-BET accredited engineering school. And he also has like a mechanical aero lab, so I think it's pretty consistent throughout. And he said like it was awful. Like, essentially you have 4 different labs that you do the whole semester, and then you have extensive coding to do with it to answer like these questions they give you, and then you have to write these very in-depth lab reports. 2 to 3 of them were over 100 pages. It's insane. And like, that's half the time is writing the 100-page lab report. The other half the time is coding. And this is the first time that we see MATLAB again since freshman year. So it's like you have to reteach yourself how to MATLAB, you know?
For sure.
It's so time-consuming.
Unbelievable amount of work, yes.
We were literally in the computer lab all weekend, every weekend. We didn't go out. It was like the morning, like we got up and we were there by like 11, 12, and then we were there till like 10:30, 11, if not later.
If you procrastinate, you're spending all night trying to get it done, and if you don't spend all night getting it done, you simply do not finish. So it's
so intensive, and like you really have to like rely on other people like not to like cheat off of, but just to help like know how to code certain things. Like MA 315, your mechanical aero lab is like the pinnacle, I think, of effort put in for a class. Okay. So next, I would say this one's just for me specifically. This is MA 333, and this class is like engineering statistics, I would say. Not exactly, but like you use RStudio, which is like a different coding language, but it's really good for like plotting graphs and plots and things like that of data. The equations that like you actually used in this class are very like large and complicated equations, to be honest. And again, like this class I personally took in the middle of COVID, like it was all online for me, so it was really hard to like do your best in that. I think if I like maybe paid attention slightly more, it would have been a little easier, but this class to me was difficult, and you're also thrown into like a new coding language that you have to learn. So I'm putting this class up at B tier, and it's also like time consuming. Like there's a lot of homework that involved, and a lot of these problems do take a long time, so that's where that one's going for me. So the next class is MA 341, and this is fluid dynamics. So I don't know, you want to start with this one?
Fluid mechanics, but counting.
Okay.
It was a lot, honestly. I mean, you took concepts from thermodynamics, but even then, it was something
like
it was stuff that you had never really seen before. You know, you're introducing a lot of new concepts, a lot of new math. Just honestly, just the concept itself is pretty tough.
It is definitely difficult. So I think B.
Yep, I agree. I think
okay.
B.
So next is MA 321, and this is dynamics of mechanical systems, also known as vibrations or vibes, which is what a lot of people refer to it as. I think this is a difficult class. I think the concepts in this are difficult to understand.
Yep.
It was mass damper systems.
Yeah.
Spring mass damper systems. Yeah.
Yep. X double dots and X dots and
our professor like just accumulated throughout the whole year this huge cheat sheet, and it's like every exam like we had this continually growing larger and larger like cheat sheet that we were able to use for our exams.
Yep.
It's just because there's so many equations that are so large, like it's impossible to like memorize all of it.
And specific to whatever it is that you're
exactly, yeah. I think this is a difficult class. Yep. The concept is difficult, you have to understand. I'm going A on this one.
I would throw it up in there. I think it was definitely tougher than fluids.
Yeah, 100%, yep. So next is MAE 322, and this is control systems. So again, first time you're throwing like a new kind of topic, a lot to do with like coding or like what goes into coding something that will be like automatic by itself.
Yep.
I think this is also a difficult concept to understand. I think it's a difficult material.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Stuff, again, you've never really seen before. It's either B or A.
Yeah. I want to add in quick before we rank it. I'm a very like visual learner, and it's so difficult to visualize this.
It's super conceptual.
Remember like the root locus plots?
Yeah, for sure.
It looks so arbitrary, and it's just rules you have to follow, and then there's some problems that take a while, and it is very arbitrary. So I think B.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same as 321.
I agree.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I would leave it in B.
So next is MA 355. This is heat transfer. So this is another class that only mechanical engineers take. This class is also very difficult. I would say like on a similar level as dynamics. Like our class averages were like 40s across the board. It was a brutal class. It's just like it's like thermodynamics, but like up the next level. It's honestly like a very difficult class to understand the material you're doing, and very similar to thermodynamics as well, because it's like a branch off of that. You have like this huge appendix that you have to go to and keep looking at different numbers and stats and equations, and this heat transfer is very difficult. This is going up. I mean, just based off our class averages, I'm telling you, they were like 30s. They were like 30s and 40s. I think this is up there in S.
All right, so next up we have AE 342, Aerodynamics. This was honestly one of the first in-depth aerospace courses. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Some of it is applied from fluid mechanics, some of those concepts, but again, it's pretty specific in terms of aerodynamics, of aircrafts. Again, teacher was great, so it helped a lot, but definitely the concepts are new for the most part, but you can apply what you've already learned. In terms of all the aero classes, I'd probably put a B tier, honestly.
B tier?
I don't think it was up in A.
Okay, so next is MEE 332, and this is machine design, which is a mechanical specific class you take. This class is also, I would say, very difficult. The concepts in this also very tough. The problems that range in this are so vast. Like you learn from different like simple tools that like you use in machines and how to design them to the physics that go into like behind just a whole bunch of like relative motion, everything like that.
Relative motion. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Any of that,
Anything like that.
Something that's moving where you're also moving. That's,
and calculating it
crazy.
with each other.
Did you get a cheat sheet during the exam or no?
We got the whole textbook.
Oh.
We got the whole textbook, and our class averages were awful. So I think this is A tier for me. We messed up real quick. Aerodynamics is 342, so that's going in the B tier. So now we're moving over to, what's this one?
Compressible flow. Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of concepts that came over from fluids. A lot of fluids was the incompressible side of things. This obviously touched on compressible side of things. So a lot of the principles are different, but I would put.
Is this one similar to turbo? You think? Because I remember we used compressible in turbo a lot, and you were like, oh, I did this, and like mechanicals hadn't at that point because this is aerospace specific.
Yeah, it helped a lot in the long run for sure.
I didn't think compressible was awful for turbo.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. Okay.
I would put it on the same level as. No, I think it was easier than fluids. I would throw it down after you have the base knowledge. Yeah, I would throw it C tier.
Okay. Cool.
Relatively speaking.
So next is MTS 533, and it's like intro to like materials and science and anything like that. I thought this class was very easy. It's just an intro to like different like types of materials, and it's different than the material class we took before. The other material class was like very specific towards engineering and those focuses. I thought this one was just a more general material class. So, I mean, I breezed through this class. I'm gonna put this one down at the F tier.
Woo.
Yeah,
the easy. First D tier and below.
Yeah,
for junior year. Nice.
Yeah, right. So here's the next one.
Yeah, moving on to structures. Structures was.
I remember this.
Structures was tough. Very, very tough. Get triggered just thinking about it now.
Yeah.
It was very time consuming. There was, multiple projects that kind of built off of each other in some ways, but, for the most part, it was very difficult concepts. Some of it we had heard of, but we're applying it in different ways. It's the aircraft structures, so it's not necessarily just like taking a block and twisting it. It's like if you have a bunch of beams and everything connected together on the aircraft, and you have to take into consideration all the different stuff. It was a lot. It was the concepts wise. It was tough, time consuming. I'm gonna have to put this one on S tier if I can be honest.
Okay.
It was one of the tougher aero classes in my second half.
All right, so finally on to senior year now. Again, I think both majors take a big step down. It's definitely a big relief. Now you finally don't have a full schedule. Like our schedules were kind of insane.
Yep.
It's not to say that you do have some difficult classes. So the first class I took, he didn't take, but a lot of arrows did as well, is finite element analysis. This class, it's just like the process of finite element analysis becomes very prominent later on in engineering, and it's how to like determine like forces on structures like further on down the line. So it's actually a very useful tool to know, but now of course like later on like computers like just run FEA like it's nothing, but the math behind it is very intensive. It like some of the problems were very long. But the class as a whole, again, I think this class definitely deserves a B tier. I think it's fair. I think the problems are long, but it's definitely doable.
All right, so up next we got AEE 446. That was propulsions, aerospecific. You're pretty much just focusing on different aircraft engines and engines in general. Well, pretty much all of the concepts that come in are new. I had never seen any of them before. It's pretty tough. I'm not gonna go S tier here. I think I'm gonna throw it A tier.
Okay.
It was tough. A lot of new concepts, but it was
just
pretty
difficult
tough.
Content.
Yep, difficult content for sure. It's all brand new. So
makes sense. Okay, so next is MEE 416, and this is the mechanical engineering specific lab. So this lab is actually more intensive than I thought it would be. So with this lab, similar to 315, you have like reports and write-ups for each lab that you do. You do 4 of them throughout the semester, and they vastly like range, just like the 315 lab. We did refrigeration, one of them. We did like statics and another one. You have to go in depth and talk about like what happens in the labs. And so I definitely think this is a tough class. Very time consuming as you have code you have to do with it. Like you have to do MATLAB programs, and it was a lot more than we all expected, especially for senior year. This took up a lot of our time, so I'm also gonna go A tier for this one. that was definitely a tough class.
On to aircraft performance, which was AEE 427. A lot of the concepts came over from vehicle performance and dynamics, which I think is what it was. Whatever 342 was. A lot of it was pretty similar, and a lot of also what we were learning came up in a couple of our other classes too. It was relatively the same, similar concepts. The workload wasn't anything. At that point, you're pretty much numb to the amount of work you have after having so much of it. So it really wasn't that bad once you get used to all the other crazy work. Again, this is definitely on levels lower than that, but it doesn't seem bad at the time being. So I'm gonna have to go B tier on this. I'll keep it the same as aerodynamics was.
Okay, so the next class we're going to talk about is computational fluid dynamics, which is MAE 571. We both took this together, very similar, like a lot of aeros and mechanicals take these classes. It has to do with all how fluids move, and it's like step by step of like determining how it would.
Yep. I mean, we used, what was that program we used to model the...
ANSYS.
ANSYS, yeah.
ANSYS. I actually love ANSYS.
Yeah,
ANSYS is really cool.
We did you modeled like a heart valve, and then you test a bunch of things where you put a flow through it. You can see actually how it flows through whatever you're trying to flow, or whether it's through or around something. You can test it out, and you can build pretty much whatever you want in there. Test some sort of fluid, whether it's fluid, which is air or liquid.
So here's the thing. Like, I don't know if it's quite as hard as these, but I think it's harder than these.
Yep. A lot of the stuff that I already seen in other classes, through fluid mechanics and compressible flow, a lot of that showed up here.
Yeah.
So
I'll be down. You're right.
I don't think I would put it on the same level as aircraft.
Okay, we'll put that in the C. And also
it's a C and a half.
Yeah, it's a C plus. It's a C plus. So next is MEE 431. This is manufacturing processes. Again, I think it's a very straightforward class. Like it is an elective. I do think that this class isn't awful, like, compared to other classes that we talked about. It's just, like, the different processes of how manufacturing goes and making products. There's actually, like, not a whole lot of math, to be quite honest. There is some, but it's actually, like, a nice breather from, like, all the math that you always do. I'm actually going to put this one in the C category. Maybe, I would put it C, because I remember the final being a little difficult. Like, there are, like, a lot of topics to cover. Definitely harder than the D categories, but that's manufacturing processes.
Yeah, moving on from here too, we're just gonna go right into 577 here, which was space flight. You might as well throw that at S tier. That was everything that you do in 577. It is dynamics, but up there. Like it's not anything that I had ever seen before. The concepts that I had tried to learn in dynamics were applied there, but on a whole other level. It was very difficult.
Didn't you have to code how to fly from here to Mars?
Yeah, our founder project was making a interplanetary mission from here to Neptune, and obviously, when you shoot off here in Earth, the planets don't stop moving. They're not where they are when you launch. So you need to figure out where they are and then how fast you need to get there. It is tough. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that was tough to apply from something that I already really wasn't comfortable with in 222. So it's S tier all the way. So much hard work, really hard concepts. It's a very tough course.
So this right here is a duo, MEE 471 and MEE 472. So these are both mechanical specific, and these are the senior design class. This is a 2-semester class. You take the first half first semester, second half your second semester senior year, and you get put in groups. And then for my school specifically, we get companies to come work with us. We develop a product with these companies. There's actually not a whole lot of work, honestly. It is a lot of ethics training and just kind of real world training that you get with these classes. You have to write lab reports and papers and all that, but it's actually really cool to be able to actually 3D design, prototype, and go through that prototype phase with something as you're making it. So it's definitely rewarding. And then at the end, there's a big get together. You make a poster and you show off your product with everyone. So I think that these classes are definitely a good real world experience, but I also don't think they're awful. I'm putting those B.
Yeah, so kind of building off the mechanical senior design. You have the aero senior design. Basically, we didn't work with any companies. We just got assigned into groups, and then we designed an airplane. Is basically what it is. Obviously, not a Boeing 747, But for our year, it was a rubber band powered aircraft. Basically, what you do is it's powered by a rubber band. You twist it about a couple thousand times, and then it spins the propeller, and then you kind of just throw it a little bit. With
balsa wood.
Yeah, it's all made out of balsa wood. The whole plane, I think our wingspan was like 6 feet. But our whole plane, with everything on it, including the we had to call them Mars rocks, but they were golf balls.
Yeah.
All in all, weighed just under 2 pounds. So, pretty decently sized plane, but super light. And again, we kind of went through the same thing that he did, where we had to go through the whole design phase, the initial design phase, the conceptual, just through that whole process. And then, it was really cool. We got to go in the carrier dome, throw them, kind of watch everybody's plane, and it was awesome. So,
where you putting that?
I would throw B. I'll throw B.
Okay. What's the last
Turbo
one?
Machines, right?
Yeah. MAE 585 is Turbo Machines. This is another elective, but there was a wide mix of mechanicals and aeros in there. Yep. It's a lot of like trig, vectors, kind of stuff like that, and it's how like air flows through a fans, turbine, whatever, and then gets pushed out through at a faster velocity, and the whole math that goes behind that. As soon as like you get like the first couple concepts, I would say it's relatively like, I don't want to say straightforward, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too was, I already had that background in compressible flow, so a lot of the turbine stuff was the second half of that class was a breeze for me, at least concept wise. I'm not saying there wasn't still work involved. Obviously, you want to do well, so you're gonna spend the time to make sure you know what you're doing.
The final project was tough.
Yep,
that was a lot of handwork
stuff.
I think just in general, like the concepts aren't as bad as like the engineering analysis class.
I agree.
The 312.
I agree.
I think this one's definitely manageable. I think it's going B. I think it's similar to CFD.
Yeah. I think Turbo and CFD are on the same level, regardless of where that is, All
right, so that is the final list. You can go through and see for yourself. Again, as you can see, like the trends. Obviously, your junior year, all the greens are up top with the S tiers as the most difficult. As
you
definitely
build into it.
You do build into it, and then senior year is like scattered around a breeze though, as you have like a lighter schedule. You don't have like any recitations, like maybe you have like 1 or 2. But
I mean, I went from 18 credit hours my junior year to like 13 or 12.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, but it definitely peaks junior year, and if you could push through that, then before you know it, like you'll have the engineering degree. So that's gonna be it for the video. I hope I was able to give you like a rundown of what it's like being an engineer and going through the engineering majors. Thank you again, Brandon, for coming for this. I think you were able to definitely help out with any other people looking at aerospace engineering with your expertise on this. So that's gonna be it for the video. If you enjoyed it, then please don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe. And with that being said, have a great day, everyone, and cheers.